Everyone agreed that Morgan was the calm one. This was not a small thing. In a family of four children, a mother who expressed love through mild catastrophizing, and a father who went quiet under pressure in a way that made the whole house have to hold its breath. Being the calm one was a role, a very real role that came with responsibilities. Morgan had been doing it since approximately age 9. The way it worked was simple. When things got tense, Morgan got still. Not peaceful exactly, more like load bearing. The kind of still that a wall is. The kind that keeps the ceiling up. By the time Morgan was an adult, with a partner and a home and a group of people who relied on them in ways both spoken and unspoken, this had become so automatic it was basically weather. It's just how things were. Morgan was fine. Morgan could handle it. Morgan didn't need much. The partner, Casey, had tried to name it once, gently, during a conversation that had started about something logistical, and it turned into something else. I feel like I can never tell what you actually need, Casey had said. Like there's a whole room inside of you that I've actually never been allowed into. Morgan responded calmly, reasonably, with complete emotional availability by explaining that they were just someone who processed things internally and that this was actually a sign of self-sufficiency, not distance. Casey had looked at them for a long moment. It's a very peaceful way of saying that you won't let me in, Casey said. Morgan had no response to this. She just stood in the kitchen for a long time after Casey went to bed. Thought about how exhausting it was, actually. The calm, the load bearing, the being fine. They had a thought. I have been so busy keeping the peace that I cannot remember the last time that I actually felt it. All right, welcome back to Archetype. We're in gate 37 now, the gate of peace. And I want to start by saying that gate name is doing a lot of work because this gate is not actually about being peaceful. It's about the difference between performing peace and having access to it. Those are two completely different things. The traditional name for this hexagram is the family or people at home. And the Taoist interpretation to me is interesting, that there is a sequence of behavior that we have to recognize, that it talks about governing your inner world, about turning your attention inward to find stillness, and then creates order. That creates order in the outer world, right? So the inner has to be illuminated first. That is the sequence. But what happens in the shadow? 37 can look like it's running unconsciously, and that is the exact reversal. You try to create order out in the world so that you can finally feel peace inside of you. You try to manage and arrange and smooth and hold things, and you end up becoming the calm one, the capable one, the one who just fucking handles it, right? And it works kind of for a while until the payout does not, until it costs more than it's giving you the return on investment. So the gene key progression here is the shadow is weakness, the gift is equality, and the highest vibration, the city, is called tenderness. And the shadow of weakness is not about being fragile. I think that's the thing that catches people the most. Weakness here is the fear of softness, the belief that's often inherited, often very old, that vulnerability is dangerous, that needing anything from your family or needing anything from your community means that you are the weak link, that tenderness is not safe. In a world that feels really unreliable, that can be a liability, right? So the system, your system, learned to lead with strength, with capability, with calm. And it works until the calm is just another word for shut down, being in a locked room by yourself. The biological angle here, 37 lives in the kidneys and the pancreas, which makes complete physiological sense once you understand what those organs actually do. The kidneys are your body's fear and safety filters. In Chinese medicine, they govern the water element, which is about trust and flow and the ability to let things move rather than holding everything in reserve through tension. So, chronic stress, chronic vigilance, the constant low grade state of managing. All of that hits the kidneys first. The adrenals sit right on top of the kidneys. Pancreas regulates blood sugar, which is your body's most literal measure of having enough energy, enough fuel, enough to give and still have something left. When 37 is running in the shadow pattern, both of these systems are under pressure, right? The sweetness has gone out of life. Life is suddenly a bit bitter, and fear and the inability to metabolize that fear is running the show, because the body is trying to maintain peace in the environment, and it's doing that by depleting its own reserves. It's using the safety budget to fund everyone else's calm, which is just not fucking sustainable. Your kidneys know this, even though your mind hasn't caught up yet. The codon associated here is CCA, which is proline, and proline is structural. It's what holds connective tissue together. It gives cellular scaffolding, and it's the biological equivalent of the stuff that lets you bend without breaking, to allows you to be flexible. When proline is distorted, which it can be, epigenetically through inherited patterns of emotional rigidity and distrust, you start to lose flexibility. I'm sure all of you can look at your own parents, your own grandparents, if you were around them growing up, and see where some of this emotional rigidity comes into play. Maybe if you're having a hard time seeing it within yourself. These people aren't visibly brittle. They still look really calm. You look calm, but something underneath is holding too hard and is starting to produce strain. The emotional correlation of a disrupted proline is broken trust, isolation, the sense of being unsupported, the fear of vulnerability within groups or within families. Sound familiar? And then, of course, there's an ancestral layer to this. This gate carries a lot of ancestral material, and it's worth naming that directly. For many people, this pattern does not start with you. Somewhere in the lineage, sometimes many generations back, there are family systems where emotional expression wasn't safe, where needing things from your community led to rejection or punishment or just the quiet devastation of being met with nothing. That's where tenderness felt dangerous. So your family adapted. They became capable. They put a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? They put a lot of emphasis on being self-sufficient, right? I do it alone. It's better. It has more value if I do it by myself. That means I'm strong. They pass that adaptation down not as a story, but as a felt sense. You interpreted that from your body. At the body level, knowing that needing too much is how you end up alone, right? There's often what you could call standalone cultural inheritance. The collective narrative that glorifies independence while quietly shaming the need for support, right? The lone wolf becomes like an aspirational identity. The idea that requiring others is weak and handling everything yourself gives you character. Neither of these things are fucking true, but they feel true, especially when they're in the water. So 37 asks you, what agreements about softness and belonging did your family make that you're still honoring, though nobody asked you to? I'll ask that again. It's a really good question. What agreements about softness and belonging did your family make that you're still honoring even though nobody asked you to? So here's kind of what to watch out for over the next 6 days. So watch for the peacekeeper move, the moment where you start to smooth something over before it becomes a conflict, where you potentially absorb someone else's mood so that the room doesn't have to feel it, where you decide that your needs are smaller than they actually are because the timing isn't just quite right and it's just easier. Watch for the exhaustion that lives underneath capability, the specific kind of tiredness of being someone people rely on to be fine. I'm fine. Everything is fine. It usually shows up as irritability in private, right? Or a low hum of resentment that doesn't have an obvious source, or it's just like a heaviness that makes you want to disappear for a while. Literally watch your kidneys and your blood sugar. What are you craving? Fatigue, cravings, lower back tension, that kind of wired but tired feeling. Your body is processing the gap between peace, the piece that you're performing, and the piece that you're not actually feeling deep down in your system. And watch for the places that you keep people at a particular distance, close enough to function, but not close enough to actually be able to see you truly. That specific arrangement is 37's shadow. Masterful community management, minimum actual contact. And the gift here is equality. Not equality as a concept, but as a lived relational reality that all of us need each other. All of us also are messy. Make sure that you are in a place where you get to take up as much space as you give, where your needs are visible, just as visible as your contributions are, where the warmth that you extend to others also has somewhere to land inside of you. That's not selfishness. That's what sustainable community actually looks like. The I Ching says the path of this hexagram is governing the inner. Illuminate the inside first, and then let that create the outer rather than the other way around. Peace is not something that you maintain. It's something that you return to. It is a level of consciousness. You don't create it by holding everything together. You create it by having somewhere inside of you that isn't contingent on the outside being okay first. That's the whole work of this doorway. It's not better management. It's not controlling things even more. It's the discovery that peace was available to you independent of what anyone else thought was all right. So you don't have to earn this by holding up the ceiling, by being fine. You just have to let yourself be able to learn how to rest underneath it. So back to this story that I started with. 3 months later, Morgan did something small. It wasn't dramatic. There was no breakthrough moment, no significant conversation, no single thing that really changed anything. What happened was this. Casey was tired one evening, visibly so. And so Morgan's first instinct, the old one, the automatic one, was to become more capable, to pick up the slack, to make dinner and handle the logistics and be fine so that Casey didn't have to worry about Morgan on top of everything else. So Morgan noticed this instinct, watched it activate like a familiar machine, and then instead sat down next to Casey on the couch. "I'm too tired," Morgan said. "Can we just sit here for a minute?" And Casey looked over, and something moved in Casey's face. Not surprise exactly, but more like, "Oh, there you are." And they sat there for a while, and dinner was late, and nothing was managed, and the ceiling stayed up anyway. Morgan noticed somewhere in the chest the particular quality of that. Not performed calm, not the load-bearing stillness, just quiet, just actual quiet. The kind that comes from two people in a room who are both genuinely there. So that's what it feels like, Morgan thought. It's not a solution, it's a beginning. I thought I would try a story this time. I'm definitely open to feedback about it, but I'm trying to make this information as relatable as possible to where we are living in the modern world. And so I think that we all know or have our own stories that are very similar to this one when we're in relation to other people and how we get our needs met, right? So meet me in part B for the tapping.